What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video. And today, I'm actually kind of going back. I know that I have Dragon Ball up, but this is a little bit about stuff I've said about like Guilty Gear in the past, and specifically because the question came up a lot in the Guilty Gear Strive video, and it was about what do I actually think is a good game if I don't think Guilty Gear is a good game. So this is kind of more like just real honestly, just a lot of opinions in this video, and helping communicate, because I've gotten to a point where I just shorthand some of my thoughts to being, say, for example, Guilty Gear. So, why do I say Guilty Gear is not a good game? So, this affects all fighting games, but I hope once I explain this, you'll get what I mean. I can use this as a nice, quick bookmark to make sure that everyone understands what I'm saying. So the first thing, the very, very first stage, just get this out of the way, is that for anyone who's like, oh, this X game has great tutorial, or Y game has really good single-player content, how can you say it's not a good game? When I'm talking about how good the game is, I personally don't really care about the single-player content, and I think a lot of fighting games recently has very good single-player content. Guilty Gear, of course, has amazing single-player content. Lordknight has this tutorial that everyone praises. Dragon Ball started kind of rocky, but I know there's a lot of events that are in the game, and raids and party battles and all this stuff you can do. But I don't really account for any of those things when I'm talking about how good the game is, because at its core, the most important thing to me in a fighting game is how the fighting is, what the actual multiplayer is like, because that's the base game. That's the game that the whole rest of the game is built off of. So when I'm talking about how good the game is actually how good the balance is generally. And I actually use a pretty simple idea to determine whether or not a game is technically good or not. And it actually has to do with win conditions, which I talked about before. So basically, depending on the win conditions of the game, if there are too many characters that have win conditions that I consider unfair, let's say, or I guess unfair, or for lack of a better word, cheap, if anything, right? If there are too many characters that have that type of win condition, then I just say the game is not good, because technically it's not good. Technically, a good fighting game should be about there's good neutral interaction, lots of interaction between the players, strong tools but nothing out of control, and then the game's kind of balanced. But this is the problem that devs have to identify. And I'm gonna pick a team, for example, you remember this team last year, right? This is a cheap team. This is an unfair team. The way this team beats you is most people do not like, right? You get snapped to death and hellzone to death. And if it's losing, it's going to spark you to get the resources back to kill you fast and snap your last two characters. Most people don't like this, right? Most people don't really like losing to Kibu. Actually, I mean, let's go even more extreme. Let's go to the champs team, right? Most people would say this team is really unfair too, right? But Dragon Ball, at least at the beginning, had a lot of teams that I think if we played season 1 without patches, I think a lot of people would say the game is pretty BS. There's stuff like Ginyu SJ Vegeta was really stupid. 21 had infinites, had practical infinites, lots of touch of deaths, characters with hard knockdowns for no meter or 1 bar, like Adult Gohan and Android 16. There's a lot of stuff that in the context of the current game we consider really unfair, really BS. And what I'm trying to say is the devs, they had to play a really careful game of how fair do you want the game to be, how actually balanced do you want the game to be, and how fun the game is for people. Because you have to consider, a lot of people's fighting games, I'm going to use a couple of examples for this. So one, of course, would be, let's say Dragon Ball's inspiration, which would be Marvel. So Marvel is universally understood to be an insane game. That game I consider to be darkness. That game, a lot of characters have really unfair stuff. The characters' tools are out of control. Touch of deaths are trivial, right? Mix-ups are unseeable. It is a crazy, crazy, crazy game. But many people love that game from the bottom of their heart. They love that game. They think it's really fun. To the point they're trying to bring it back. People don't want Marvel to die. There are people who used to hate Marvel who look back on Marvel with a good memory. Actually this is pretty fun. I enjoyed this. Another example I want to talk about is actually BlazBlue. So BlazBlue actually... So BlazBlue tends to kind of vary, but usually what they end up doing is like they'll release a version of BlazBlue. So we have like, let's say, Continuum Shift or Chrono Phantasma, right? And they'll have the initial version, and they just kind of make everyone kind of crazy, and then they balance it once, and then they balance it again. And usually that third balance they call the Extend Edition. And universally in BlazBlue, nobody, I'm over-exaggerating, not that many people like the Extend versions, despite them being the most fair. So technically, they're the most balanced, which is what people say they want. People want balance, is what they say, right? BBCS Extend and BBCP Extend were very balanced and fair, but people thought the game was boring, so they dropped the game. So on the dev side, they have to play this push-pull game with, you know, people are going to complain about how stuff's too good, like people are going to complain about how Ghost Oki's too good, but if we don't put strong enough tools or strong enough variety or just the right amount of sauce on the game, people are going to say the game is boring, so they're going to go play something else. It's kind of like a rough thing. So in Guilty Gear's case, going back to Guilty Gear, it is pretty clear to me that Guilty Gear is not a fair game, technically. A lot of the good characters have like, either they have rule-breaking things. I know rule-breaking is kind of a buzzword in fighting games where, oh, you just say this character is rule-breaking because they're unique, okay. But if you look at the theme of the game, you step back to the big picture of, let's say, a game like Guilty Gear, right? A lot of the good characters really do just overcome the theme of the game in their design, and it's done purposefully, and it's okay. Like, I'm okay with it. I enjoy Guilty Gear. I like playing Guilty Gear, and like I said before, the players elevate what Guilty Gear is. The community elevate what Guilty Gear is. But when you step back and look at the game, I could be like, oh, this game's darkness. It's not balanced that well. It's balanced in that everyone is really strong. And, like, technically, there's just a lot of unfair stuff. And if you want to play that game, you have to just be okay with it. This game is kind of the same, too. Like, this game has a lot of, like, not between the ways it makes the game easier and, like, even though they, like, muddled down a lot of teams' win conditions, like, Piccolo, yeah, he's not straight up hell-zoning you to death, but he's still, like, snapping you to death and stuff. Like, yeah, maybe we're not doing Ghost Oki over and over and over, but he still has really strong snap, and there's still, like, characters strong level 3s and stuff, so there is still specific match flows built there, but, this game has managed to, kind of muddle the win condition thing. I'm not sure if it's for the better. I would technically say this game is not that good of a game, too. It is fun, but I think the difference between this game and Guilty Gear is that this game is just kind of muddled. Like nobody has, not that many characters have like clear goals. While like games like Guilty Gear or BlazBlue, when the characters are super strong, or Marvel, like, you know what the characters do, they win this way, it's hard to deal with once you're in that position where the character wins, and many characters do this, so technically the game is not fair, aka the game is not good. That's basically my line of thought. Fighting games, I think, the ones that are loved the most, though, are the ones that really hit that balance. And it's not like character balance, really, it's a balance of how the player feels when they're playing. Like, it's the right amount of, man, my character's sick, check out this sick setup, or like, they do too much damage, or I have this tool that I like to use, and oh my god, these characters are so good, or so stupid, or like, there's like this line that the balance has to tiptoe around between like people's personal enjoyment with what they do, and what they're willing to deal with. It's why I consider, this is another thing I kind of say, Guilty Gear and BlazBlue are kind of like selfish games, in that a lot of people who enjoy the game, what they enjoy the most about the game is their character, not the actual game. And I think you'll actually find many Guilty Gear players, maybe not all of them, but many Guilty Gear players, you'll hear them complain, like, man, I hate LFL, man, Johnny's so stupid, but my character, Eno, by the way, Eno is top tier. My character, Eno, is so sick. I fly around, I use my guitar, and all this stuff, right? But that's what makes the genre interesting, and everyone has their own reason for being in it and stuff like that. One thing I learned through this channel is, like, from thinking about fighting games through the years and stuff, like the refinement of my thoughts and like how I've like developed my ideas. Since I'm only going to tournaments, really, of course I stream and stuff, but this channel, and this is thanks to y'all, I have an opportunity to see what people who, you know, just play fighting games for fun, they just started fighting games, they've been playing fighting games for years, but they're just casual, they don't go to tournaments. I get to see a lot of differing opinions, and in the comments very often I see stuff that people are like, okay, what are you saying? This makes no sense. And I'm like, what do you mean? This makes sense, but it doesn't actually make sense unless I explain why I got to this point mentally. Okay, so I hope this helps. I hope this helps people. Like if you feel like it. Please comment if you have any thoughts about this, or if you want me to clear up anything else. I hope this makes sense, and it's pretty straightforward. I know I could probably clear it up a little bit more, but I wanted to just talk it out rather than make it super technical. For all the people who've been subbing, thank you so much. I actually think it can be done. We could hit the big 10K and start 2020 with a fucking bang. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. Peace out.